Okay, so this is a video tutorial on how to create a custom knife profile for the Waterjet. So we're going to get started by doing a little bit of research. There's a great number of many places on the internet that you can find kind of some inspiration for knife profiles. This is one website that I will link to. And what I like about it is it just has a variety of different styles of knives, all that will kind of work well for this particular tutorial. So you can kind of browse through these and find the one that suits your particular style. We are looking for something that's got a relatively kind of straight back on it that will help in the process of grinding a little bit later on, especially for beginners, as well as something that's kind of roughly the right size. We're looking for something that's kind of about 7 inches from tip to butt. And so the one that I picked out was this particular model. And so I like it because, again, it's got relatively simple geometry. It will include kind of both a steel bit that we will cut on the Waterjet, as well as kind of a handle that we'll do out of carbon fiber. And so I like the geometry of this little smaller one. And so I'm going to screen capture this. I'm just going to kind of draw my box around it and get as much of it as I can. Okay, and so I've captured that image to my desktop, and then at this point, I'm going to come into Inkscape. I've got a blank document here, and I'm going to import, and I'm going to grab that screenshot and bring it on here. Now, I'm not going to resize it just yet. I want to kind of do my bitmap tracing first, so I can go to Path and trace bitmap, and I can see that it's already here. And I'm going to use some of these default settings and just see if I can get a good kind of relatively decent trace of that. And so as I zoom in, I can see clearly this one on the right is my vector. The one on the left is my bitmap. So I'm going to delete the bitmap one. And there's a lot of geometry here that I'm going to need to get rid of. So I'm going to kind of start on that. First thing I'm going to do is, with everything kind of selected, I'm going to go up to Path and Break Apart. And then here in the bottom left-hand corner, I'm going to left-click this little X. And that's going to drop the fill on everything. And then I'm going to right-click on the black and hit Set Stroke. And that's going to give me a nice outline of all the geometry. And that way I'm able to kind of delete a lot of things that I don't need. So for example, I don't need that text there. I don't really need these bevel lines here or here. And so I just want to kind of come through and make sure I've got any kind of small bits of geometry taken care of. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, and I know that the size of the holes that I'm going to need are going to be 4 millimeters, and so I want to kind of think about the overall size and structure of this knife. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select everything. I'm going to lock the proportions. As I mentioned, the overall size of this knife I want to be is about 7 inches. And so I'm going to size that down appropriately so that I have a good sense of the overall size of this knife. And so you can notice that it changed both dimensions. As I mentioned over here, we're going to start with our holes here that we're going to water jet out. And I know that the holes that I have for the hardware are going to be 4 millimeters by 4 millimeters. So I'm going to unlock these and type in 4, 4. And I'm going to bring these, and the placement here doesn't have to be exact, but it should be kind of in the right ballpark. And I can now come in and delete those guys. Okay, I'm going to change my opacity to 100. Not sure why that was like that. Okay, so I can copy that, and I can come down here, and again, I'm going to paste in my perfect circle there and replace that one there. So we're just kind of cleaning up this geometry a little bit to kind of make it a little bit more accurate for our needs. Okay. And so now I've got some nice holes here. Now, one of the things that you'll notice is that in the process of bitmap tracing, we got a lot of this like really weird geometry that would not make for a very clean knife edge. So we're going to actually spend a little bit of time cleaning this up. And so to do so, we are going to double click on this, and you'll see that we get all of these little nodes here. And a lot of these are actually kind of unnecessary. They're not really contributing too much to our shape. And so I'm going to select a few, and I'm going to hit delete. And as you notice, as I kind of delete a few nodes, the geometry of the blade begins to change a little bit. And we can kind of work with that. I'm going to kind of remove some just to see how that kind of begins to smooth out the shape. And we can already see that's kind of improving a little bit. And then we can also manipulate the shape a little bit. And so where we see each of these little squares, this is a distinct node that's kind of defining the shape. But also these little circular bits, as we kind of move those around, those will also change the blade shape. And so our goal here is to try to create a distinct kind of knife edge as best as we can, and remove out any of the bits of this blade that are just not really giving us a clean edge that we want. So I'm going to work in here for a little bit, and like I said, just get rid of most of these nodes. And I always want to kind of zoom back and just make sure that overall the knife shape is kind of doing what I want it to do. Again, we see a lot of like weirdness and jagginess through here. And so I'm going to remove quite a bit of this. You can see how that's already kind of improving our overall knife shape a lot. And the nice thing about the contours with knives is that overall we don't need a lot of nodes to define its shape. And so there's actually a good chance that most of these nodes we can actually get rid of. And again, if you do something that you don't intend to, you can always, undo. But again, just little weirdness in here. And this is just based on how we bitmap traced it and us working with less than perfect geometries. I'm just working my way down. Again, you just got to find that balance between kind of taking away just the right amount and adjusting the blade shape as you go. So these look okay, but again, you can kind of see how this is kind of cutting in really weirdly here. So I'm gonna remove this, and then this is kind of bowing out. I kind of don't like that. I actually probably gonna remove this one altogether. There we go. That gives me a much kind of cleaner curve. Okay, and again, I'm just kind of looking for any spots that just seem to really be affecting the overall contour of the shape here. And trying to just create subtle improvements. These all look okay. This gets a little bit weird in here. So I might straighten that out quite a bit. And the more time we spend on this, again, just the smoother and better our knife will be. And we want that because we want it to feel really good in our hand. So it's worth taking a little bit of time here to make sure that we're getting a geometry that just makes a lot of sense. There are other approaches that you could take to this. For example, you could take this into Fusion 360 and begin to define the shape. So I'm getting a little bulbous here. So again, I'm going to kind of take this node Drag it in a little bit. It's kind of coming to a sharp point, isn't it? You kind of see a little bit of that weirdness here, and we can kind of pull that node out and just try to improve it a little bit. It's looking a lot better. Step back. Okay, still a little bit of wonkiness in here. Ooh, that might have been a little bit too much. We'll kind of keep that. Maybe we follow this contour a little bit better. This is the one that we can get rid of. There we go. That feels a little bit better. Okay, just following this edge up here. Oh, it's nice and straight. Okay, so our blade profile looks really good. Now what we want to do is we want to work on our handle. There's kind of two different approaches that we could take at this. We can go in here and really begin to define this handle and kind of keep this kind of continuous shape. At this point, you would need to kind of think through if you want your carbon fiber handle to kind of show a little bit of the metal there. Then you could certainly do that. And so you'd kind of pull this out to kind of match those edges. You could also kind of pull it in a little bit to kind of, either let the metal show or kind of have it match up to the edge. So it's kind of a personal design choice. Now I'm going to experiment with a slightly different approach, and that will be to, I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it in place. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the path around it. So I'm going to go to Fill and Stroke. And I'm going to come over to Stroke Style. I'm going to beat again to kind of increase the thickness here. Right about there. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say Stroke to Path. And then I'm going to break that apart. I'm going to click there, set stroke here, and what you can see now is that it's giving me kind of these two paths. I'm going to delete this one. I'm going to select this one, and I'm going to drop its stroke back to 0.1. I'm going to remove this inner kind of handle here. And so what you can see that I've done is now I've got like a kind of a perfect outline of my knife that's kind of following this interior ridge. And what I should be able to do now is to actually manipulate the paths in here to create a handle that it kind of perfectly follows that contour. And so I'm going to go ahead and kind of start removing a lot of the geometry here and kind of begin to kind of cut it back to where I want the handle to appear. So I'm going to really kick back. And it's going to look weird for a little bit, and that's okay. Really zoom in here, make sure I get all these little nodes. There we go. Okay, so I'm just kind of trimming back the part of this that deals with the blade. And I'm just working it my way back to where ultimately we're going to start defining the handle. Okay, so I'm going to grab these guys and really bring this in. So this guy is like really way out here. And I'm just kind of freestyling a little bit here. And I'm thinking, well, maybe that might be like a nice kind of curved handle for my knife. So let's zoom out and take a look at it. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to be okay with that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to save this as knife. Oh, let me save this as something new. We'll call it Zane knife. Okay, so that's saved up. And I actually need to save this as two separate pieces. So I've got kind of this original like Zane knife. But as I mentioned, one of these is going to be for the steel, and then one of these is going to be for the carbon fiber handles. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to kind of delete this out. This is going to be my steel blank. So I'm going to go ahead and save this as Zane knife, steel, and I want to save that as an Inkscape SVG. Okay. And then I'm going to actually bring back that handle bit, and I'm going to delete this part, and I'm going to save this as we'll call this carbon R for the right-hand side. Okay, and then I'm going to take this entire thing and I'm going to mirror it. Okay. And I'm going to call this one save as carbon L for the left-hand side. Okay, so now we've got all my three pieces for the knife. At this point then, once that's done saving, I'm going to come into our Wazer Cam software, and I'm going to work on getting everything set up for the steel and then the carbon fiber. And so we'll go to Import File, and I'm going to go to my knife steel and click Open. Okay, here I can see my knife. And then what you'll want to do is just double check with the water jet to find kind of the best place to cut. And so I'm going to cut in this region here because that's a good known place based on kind of me having looked at the cutting bed. So for material, we're going to go over to metals, and we're going to go over to steel, and we are cutting 1/8" steel. For cutting path, interesting. Okay, so I actually see an issue here. What we can not see is the holes in our design. And that's because I forgot a part of our process. So I'm going to actually get rid of this. This is kind of a weird quirk. We're going to go back to Inkscape, and we need to open up all of our files. So, and draw a layer here. And we need to go up to Object, Path, and we need to say Object to Path. And then we'll save that. So let's go back through. We'll open up our right-hand side. Okay. It's taking its poor sweet time, but that's okay. Okay. All right. And we'll select everything. And again, go Path, Object to Path, and save. And then we'll do our last one, Steel. And so the issue is that circles aren't technically paths, they're objects, and so we have to convert them in order for the Wazer software to recognize them as something that can be cut. So again, we'll just kind of hang out here for a second while it opens up this other file, and then we'll get back to laying out our cam file for the water jet. So again, select everything, object to path, and we'll go ahead and save that. Okay, so now we can go back to the Wazer cam, import. Let's find that steel. Okay, not seeing that load up, so I'm going to reload the software. And let's see if we can have better luck this time. Yeah, it looks like things are just running a little bit slow, and that's okay. All right, we'll try importing the file. There we go. That's looking much better. All right, so we'll bring it back over here. Okay, back to material, metals, steel, to 1/8". Okay, for cutting path, we're going to select our knife, and we're going to say center line. For tabs and leads, we do want those enabled. And for cut, we're going to do coarse. Okay. And for the name, I'm going to say vein steel. And we're going to generate the job file. So that's going to generate a G-code file that we'll put on a micro SD card, and we will take out to the water jet. Okay, so now what we can do is I'm going to reload WazerCam, and we'll go and just get this set up for our carbon fiber as well. So we'll import our file. This time I'm going to load up our right, and I'm going to import our left. Ooh, now that's fascinating. It's not exactly what I was expecting. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. I'm going to assume that in here we can't mirror anything. No. No, we probably want to. Okay. So let me pop back in. So that was the left one that was having the issues. Let's just go make sure that that is feeling okay about its life. So open up that file. Okay. Yeah, it's trying to. So this is looking okay. Some trick that I've learned is I'm just going to go ahead and copy this, open up a new file. Sometimes if I get a weird kind of result when I go to take a SVG file onto a machine, sometimes just opening up a new file and copying and pasting it in will solve all my problems. So we're going to try that here. So I'm just going to paste it here. I'm going to say File. Just make sure it looks, yeah, it looks right. File, Save As. And I'm going to call this L2. Okay. And let's try this again. So I'm going to import file. Bring in L2. There we go. That seems to be much better. Yeah, not sure what was going on there, but that's okay. All right. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring these. I'm going to kind of put them back to back to kind of conserve material. Okay. And for our material here, we're going to go to Other, Carbon Fiber, and 3mm is what we're cutting. We're cutting path. We'll select both of these. And there we go. We'll make sure they're cutting on the center line. For taps and leads, make sure that those are enabled. And for cut, we'll call this Zane Fiber. And we'll do the coarse quantity, or quality rather. Okay. And we will generate a job file. All right. Now at that point, we've got two files that we can take over to our Waterjet, and we can start the process of cutting. One small thing I'm actually going to change about this is I kind of don't like the how close that is to the top edge there. I'm going to bring these guys down. So something I should have checked before. But let's see if we can re-export this file. We'll call this Zane Fiber 2. Okay. So just a couple things to be conscious of. And hopefully that will finish momentarily. And we'll have some files to cut. And so at this point, you can move on to the Waterjet tutorial, and that's